I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. This is a breaking news alert. We have now seen the first official document issued by the judge that will be presiding over Donald Trump's criminal case, Judge Juan Merchan. That name may sound familiar because Judge Juan Merchan was the same judge who presided over the 17 felony count conviction of the Trump organization a few months back. Donald Trump absolutely detested Judge Juan Merchan, and even at the sentencing of Allen Weisselberg, Judge Juan Merchan stated that he would have sentenced Weisselberg to even more time for being so utterly greedy. And so Donald Trump's not happy that Juan Merchan is the judge who is assigned this matter. This case will be out of the New York Supreme Court. Don't let that name fool you. In New York, the Supreme Court is their trial court. Their court of appeals is their highest court. I know it's confusing. And then the middle kind of appellate level is the appellate division, but Supreme Court, appellate division, court of appeal. So this will go before the Supreme Court, their trial court. Let's pull up this first order that's been issued by Judge Juan Merchan, and it's called, or it's referred to in New York as a limited sealing order. The document acknowledges that a grand jury returned a criminal indictment, in this case returning a criminal indictment indicting Donald Trump for various crimes. And then it says that the district attorney will be authorized to further unseal the indictment at the appropriate time. That will take place when Donald Trump is booked right before the arraignment. His mugshot will be taken if it goes through the normal process, which we expect it to take place. Donald Trump would be arrested, booked, and then the indictment would be fully unsealed, which we expect to take place on Tuesday. Okay, pull up the document right here. Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of New York, Part 59. That's why I wanted a flag for you what Supreme Court meant, so you weren't confused and thought that was the United States Supreme Court or the highest court in New York. No, Supreme Court is their trial court there. The people of the State of New York versus Donald J. Trump. There it is, folks, right there. The people of the state of New York against Donald J. Trump. Defendant, you look to the right, it says order unsealing a grand jury matter. And the grand jury matter was the grand jury that was criminally investigating Donald Trump. Here is what the document says. Upon the application of Alvin Bragg, District Attorney of New York County, by the affirmation of Peter B. Pope, an Assistant District Attorney, dated March 30th, 2023, for an order authorizing the Office of the District Attorney to disclose to the public that the grand jury has returned a true bill in the above captioned case, and that said indictment has been filed with the court. And this matter having duly come to be heard before this court on March 30th, 2023, and a detailed and sufficient factual showing of a compelling and particularized need for this disclosure having been made to this court, and upon a finding that this disclosure to the public that the grand jury has returned a true bill in the above captioned case, and that said indictment has been filed with the court would be in the public interest and an appropriate exercise of this court's discretion, it is ordered that the office of the district attorney is authorized to disclose to the public that the grand jury has returned a true bill in the above captioned case, and that said indictment has been filed with the court. Signed, the Honorable Juan Merchan, Justice of the Supreme Court. And then you see the stamp of Judge Merchan below. That was dated March 30th of 2023 in New York. And so in layman's terms, just what that meant is that the grand jury in Manhattan voted to indict Donald Trump. The district attorney then took that indictment, which is under seal, meaning that it is secret, and it is kept secret until an arraignment takes place. But then the district attorney basically takes that indictment after the vote happens, shows the vote or lodges the vote and the actual charging document, the indictment, with the judge, in this case, Judge Juan Merchan. Judge Juan Merchan reviews the document that is lodged by the district attorney. Judge Juan Merchan confirms that this was the vote of the grand jury that had been deliberating this. And then Judge Juan Merchan basically authorizes the district attorneys to proceed in its normal course. Proceed in its normal course. So what the normal course would be, Donald Trump would be arrested. He would show up and surrender. We understand that a negotiation for the surrender date is taking place. As of this recording, that will likely take place on Tuesday. Donald Trump would be essentially arrested on Tuesday. He would be booked and he would be arraigned. When he would be arraigned, the judge, Judge Juan Merchan, would read the charges that Donald Trump has been indicted for. Right before the arraignment, that's when the indictment will be unsealed unless it leaks to the public before then. But we won't actually see a copy of the indictment. But this order that I just read for you authorizes Alvin Bragg and the team at the district attorney's office to then show Donald Trump the indictment. And they usually wait right before the arraignment takes place in New York to try to avoid the leak, because, Donald Trump would probably try to leak it. Then the charges are read to Donald Trump, and then he would either say guilty or not guilty, and then it would proceed on its normal course. Before that, Donald Trump would be booked, he'd have a mugshot taken, he'd go through the process that anybody who goes through the New York criminal justice system would go through. What we are learning about this criminal indictment, though, is that it is likely 34 counts. Why so many counts? Likely a count for each of the false business records would be their own independent count. So for each falsification regarding the hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, that would be its own criminal count. And then at least one count that would be for the broader conspiracy at issue that would take this from a misdemeanor to a felony. And this will be charged from all the data we have, almost certainly as a felony. Almost 100% will be charged as a felony case. And the broader conspiracy here, can also be, the fact that Donald Trump was engaged in this catch and kill scheme with the National Enquirer before the payment to Stormy Daniels, whereby Donald Trump had the National Enquirer pay Karen McDougal, who Donald Trump had sex with back in the early 2000s, paid her leading up to the election approximately $150,000 to catch the story, to buy the rights to McDougal's story, and then to kill the story and not release it and sign a confidentiality with McDougal. And so when you hear about those facts, right, that's leading right up to the election. And so when you have the National Enquirer making a payment of $150,000 to benefit Donald Trump, and then they're preparing false or fake invoices that they were sending to Michael Cohen for services rendered when there weren't services rendered, that sounds like an unlawful campaign contribution, right? Because they're doing it to benefit Trump's campaign, $150,000 payoff of hush money to McDougal, right? And by the way, that exchange where Donald Trump was aware of this, that is caught on tape. By the way, that's likely why David Pecker, the former CEO of the National Enquirer, testified before this grand jury, which ultimately indicted, but testified on Monday to talk about that. That's relevant because subsequently, Michael Cohen and Donald Trump went to the National Enquirer to do the same thing. regarding Stormy Daniels. But then the National Enquirer likely realized, wait a minute, this is an illegal campaign contribution, so we can't do it. So my thought is that on Monday, what Pecker probably testified to is that the reason he didn't pay Stormy Daniels is because he subsequently realized after the payment to Karen McDougal that it was an unlawful campaign contribution. So that's why the Enquirer said, no, we can't do this. So then Donald Trump hatched a plan through the Trump Organization to do it, whereby Michael Cohen paid Stormy Daniels $130,000, and then Donald Trump made a payment back to Michael Cohen as a legal reimbursement. That's the falsification of a business records, and that's how it's very clear that it is in connection with the election. So I just wanted to break down for you how kind of easy and obvious the crime is, and the context of that with this very first document that has been filed in the docket, people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump. Thank you all for watching this. Hit subscribe. We are on our way to 1.5 million subscribers here at the MeidasTouch Network. Help us get to that 1.5 million subscribers. Also, if you can, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch, wherever you get your audio podcast. Also, make sure you subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast, as well as the Legal AF podcast and the Political Beatdown podcast. All right, hit subscribe on our YouTube. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas. Thank you for watching. Subscribe.
Lock him up! Indictment season is upon us. Celebrate with the new Indictment season t-shirt and v-neck exclusively at store.meidastouch.com.